I'm going to make some keto-friendly beef stew. It's basically regular beef stew. We just use turnips instead of potatoes. But I have a chuck steak here. I have some mushrooms. These are just white mushrooms. I have a carrot. I know that carrots are not keto friendly. I just use one carrot. It is a big carrot. I love carrots. I love carrots. But I'm only going to use one carrot, and this is enough for basically 3 meals for both of us. It makes a lot. 3 turnips. I usually will just get a big one and a small one, but they just had these like little medium-sized ones, so I just got 3. Some thyme, some tomato paste, some bay leaves, and some beef broth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this into chunks, and we'll be back. As I cut it into chunks, I'm going to be putting it in this bowl, and because I'm going to add olive oil and salt and pepper later. That is what that looks like. It's just cut up into chunks and liberally salt and peppered. I did use some avocado oil, which I'm also going to put into my Instapot. This is a chuck roast. I don't know if I mentioned that. This was a really good chuck roast. There was a lot of marbling, but not a lot of the hard fat. I did get it at Meijer. I like Meijer meat. I think it's better than Kroger. Kroger is very hit or miss for us. So what I'm going to do now is I have this on brown. I'm going to wait till that oil gets a little hotter, and then I'm going to brown just lightly on the outsides, brown all of the meat. I'm going to do that in batches because this is a lot. So it's probably going to take me about 4 batches because I want to make sure that it gets browned on all sides. That's what that looks like in there. I'm going to make sure that they get brown on all sides because that makes it extra juicy. And then as I take them out, I'm going to put those on a foil baking sheet. Okay, when chopping up my turnips, first of all, if you've never used turnips instead of potatoes, they're really good. When you cook them, they lose that bite, so they are very potato-like consistency, and they give a very earthy flavor to whatever soup or stew you're using them in. And I like to do some that are really small, and then I like to do bigger chunks. The reason I do this is because as I cook them in the Instapot, they will break down, they will become softer, and the small ones will basically dissolve, and that's what thickens the stew, where these will stay more potato-like, and so you'll have like chunks of turnip in there, which will mimic the chunks of potatoes. So that chuck roast made a lot more meat than I thought it would, because usually they have a lot of the hard fat in them, and I end up taking that out, so it's a lot less meat than what we normally have. So I'm going to put about a third or a third to a half of that, and I still have some in the Instapot browning, in a bowl. And so maybe tomorrow or the next day I will put that back in the Instapot, and I will cook it and make tacos out of it, make shredded beef tacos. Have all my veggies cut. As you can see, that's really not a whole lot of carrot. You can definitely omit the carrot if you're more strict keto. I really like carrots. I always put them in there. Now we're going to put about a cup of broth in there. And then I'm going to take a wooden spoon, and I'm going to get all of that fond off the bottom. That's called flavor. Do all that. Now, you always want to make sure that you take your meat out of the Instapot before, if you have browned it, or in this works with a skillet or a stew pot or whatever. Make sure you take the meat out before you put the broth in, because cold broth or cool broth going into a hot pan, if the meat is in there, the meat will seize and it will be very tough. So make sure you take your meat off. To that, I'm going to add a couple of, like about a tablespoon of thyme, salt, pepper, and this is just to taste, whatever you like. I'm also going to put in a little bit of oregano. I know I didn't show that at the beginning, but I really like the flavor of it with the thyme. Give that a stir. And now we're going to put our meat, our mushrooms, our vegetables. We're going to put everything in there. I don't think I mentioned this, but I do put a whole can of green beans in here as well. I think I forgot to say that. I did add a half of a 6-ounce can of tomato paste. So now I'm just gonna stir it all up. Don't worry about the tomato paste if it's not totally incorporated, because once you get everything out, once it's done, it'll be totally broken down and you can do that. What I'm doing now is I'm going to put this on stew. This is a power cooker. I know Instapots have a little bit of different settings than this. I do cook it for 30 minutes, and then I will let it natural release for another 15 to 20 minutes. Naturally release is when you don't release it manually. So there's the top. I made sure it's closed, and now it cooks. Okay, it is off. I have let it naturally release and then manually release the rest of it. And this is what it looks like. Anthony reminded me that I did forget to put onions in it. I usually will put onions in it. Completely forgot. Oh well. Now you can see the big pieces of turnip in there, but as I stir, the smaller pieces will break down. But that is my low-carb beef stew. It is keto friendly except for the carrots, but like I said, you can omit those, but it's really good. If you want to thicken it up again, you can dissolve a little bit of xanthan gum into some water and make a slurry. Make sure you stir it up really good. Make sure that the xanthan gum is completely incorporated so that you don't get lumps. But I think that as I stir and the small pieces break down, the small pieces of the turnip break down, that it thickens up really nicely. That's what it looks like in the bowl, and it's really, really good. So thanks everyone for watching. I really appreciate you being here. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate the support to my channel. Everyone, have a great day.